Coming up on City Spotlight, we are talking Charleston. In the first segment, we will be discussing Charleston Schools with Superintendent of Charleston Schools, Todd Vilardo, and Assistant Superintendents of Charleston Schools, Chad Burgett and Kristen Holly, about the latest with school funding in the state of Illinois and its impact on Charleston schools, and an update on recent physical changes in the Charleston School District. Then we will talk with Tom Vance and Les Dallas of the 5 Mile House Foundation about the 5 Mile House and a recent project involving an 1880s barn. We're talking Charleston next on City Spotlight. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com. And welcome to another edition of City Spotlight. We're in the studio for this episode on Charleston. And in this first segment, we're going to talk all about Charleston schools. And welcome to the studio today. 3 people from the Charleston Schools Administration. We have Superintendent of Schools, Todd Vilardo. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Ramin.
Pleasure. Chad Burgett. He's the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services for Charleston Schools. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Very good. And Kristen Holly. She's the Assistant Superintendent of Student Services in the Charleston School District.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for all being here. And it's been a while since we've talked Charleston Schools here on City Spotlight, so we look forward to catching up what's going on in CUSD number 1. You guys are all first-time guests to the program, so if we could have you all tell us a little bit about yourselves. We'll start with Todd first.
Sure. First, once again, thanks for having us. We're excited for the school year and glad to share some of the things that are new in our school district. To begin, I'm originally from a rural community in northwestern Illinois and had a great public education and went to school here at EIU beginning in 1986 and got on as a teacher and coach in the Charleston Schools and have held various positions throughout the years. Currently serving as superintendent in my second year. I have an incredible wife, Kelly, 2 children and one grandchild. So happy to be here and honored to serve as superintendent.
All right, thank you very much. And Chad, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Sure. I graduated from Marshall High School just down the road from Charleston, and then I attended EIU. My wife attended EIU. I met her here. My daughter just recently graduated from EIU too, so it's been a part of our lives. I started teaching in Charleston about 22 years ago, and for the first 10 years I was at Jefferson and then became the principal at Carl Sandburg and then moved to the middle school before taking the position at the district office.
Very good. Thank you. And Kristen?
Unlike these two, I am I'm not native to Illinois. I moved here from Providence, Rhode Island 13 years ago and have called Charleston my home and can't imagine living anywhere else. I started in the Charleston School District as a literacy coach and worked in various schools in that role and have had multiple roles here in the district and more recently the Carl Sandburg principal.
Okay, very good. So all of you have many years here in the Charleston School District. My questions will start off individually and then we'll wrap up the program with a few questions where you guys can all chime in with your thoughts on. We'll start with Todd first. As you mentioned, Todd, many years in the Charleston School District, variety of roles, teacher, administrator. How have those many years in the Charleston School District prepared you for now your second year as superintendent?
The school district has been a challenging and rewarding experience. Beginning as a teacher and a coach in our district at the high school and then serve as assistant principal at the high school and then as an assistant superintendent and now superintendent. I've been able to see a variety of roles in our school district and served with regard to grant writing, much of what Kristen is doing, and a little bit of finances in the district with what Chad is focusing on now. So I think it's prepared me well for this role. And again, we're excited for this new school year to begin. Any new school year has its challenges and has, for example, new laws that we have to contend with. And we can talk a little bit about that later. One of the things that we're really excited about this year is we're able to see the products of the 1% sales tax in our county. Mm-hmm. And we're able to put those revenues to use to make some improvements in our schools. So this was a very, very busy summer for school facility improvements, and Chad might be able to talk a little bit more about that.
Excellent. One more question for you, Todd. You have two assistant superintendents next to you on your left here, and the addition of a second assistant superintendent. Talk about that,
Sure.
that dynamic and how that's going to work out.
Absolutely. I mentioned new laws, and we now have the implementation of two new laws that all school districts in Illinois need to work with. One is the Every Student Succeeds Act, and it's often referred to as ESSA by its acronym. The other is the State Illinois Evidence-Based Funding Model. Now, those two laws work together to ensure that there is accountability with regard to how taxpayer dollars are being used in the schools to provide supports to ensure that we're doing the work with regard to ensuring that our academic and achievement goals are being met. And so we're now in a position with both Chad and Kristen, while we still have fewer central office administrators now than we did at one time, they're uniquely poised in their positions to provide the necessary supports needed for our staff to achieve those goals, to provide both the human and the physical capital for our staff to perform the challenging yet rewarding work in our schools. That is to support our students.
All right, very good. Thank you. Chad, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Your second year in the current position
Yes.
that you hold, you were previously principal at the middle school. So from an administrator point of view, talk about your experiences and how you were able to see the Charleston School District through that perspective.
Sure. I think looking back on my time in Charleston, it's the team of teachers and paraprofessionals, secretaries, custodians that really make the school. And I think the support that I had, I remember my first year and all the support you were able to receive from the teachers. Moving into Carl Sandburg, such a nurturing environment, and them willing to help you. Them going on to the middle school where you see those kids that were at Carl Sandburg just a few years ago and how they've grown and how the expectations have changed and things like that. So I would say just the support that I've gotten from everyone has really been an asset. And then moving to the district office, we've got a great team that is helping Todd, Kristen, and I as we move forward trying to make changes in the district.
And also second question for you, like with Todd, the dynamic of having another assistant superintendent, your thoughts on
I
that?
think Kristen is a great asset to the team. With the evidence-based funding and ESSA, I think her perspective on the ESSA and the curriculum, and then you tie that in with me and the finances, and how do those two blend together? How do they meld? And then how do you take that? And I think one of the challenges that we're going to face is, telling Charleston's story, and how are these funds affecting students and student achievement?
Very good. And Kristen, for you, you just started your new position here. We're a couple months into the new school year and fiscal year in 2018. When you were approached with the opportunity for this position, what were your thoughts, and can you elaborate on a little bit about what your position entails?
Sure. Well, I won't say it was with mixed emotion. I'm thrilled to be at the central office working with these two and with my new responsibilities, but certainly missed my role at Carl Sandburg a lot. But my new position comes with what my passions are, which is curriculum, professional development, school improvement, looking at data. And those are the things that I'll be immersed in, but this time, instead of just with one school's focus, with the district focus. And as they've both already mentioned, I'll be working together with these two on how to use evidence-based funding model in school improvement specific efforts and how to ensure that we're making decisions to help overall student achievement.
Okay. Before I ask all three of you a broad question that you can all chime in, Kristen, I want to ask you about how you'll be helping teachers out with student assessments, the state tests that the students are, how you're helping the teachers out with that.
Right. My role will be district assessment coordinator, so I'll be overseeing all the assessments that are required by the state. And one of those in particular this year, we're watching changes to the park assessment. It's the assessment we've had for a couple of years, and there's some discussion about changes to that. So it will be my responsibility to ensure the teachers and administrators have all the information about changes so that we can best support students with those changes.
And one more question for you, Kristen. I understand you're dealing with federal grants as well.
Yes, I am. I'm actually I've already submitted first round of grants for Title I, Title II, and Title IV specifically. And this year we have 3 schools that will also receive a school improvement grant. Okay. And got some revisions to work on, but they should be ready to go. So we're ready to start working on aligning those funds with school improvement efforts and ESSA, as we've already mentioned.
Right. All right, very good. State of Illinois and school funding. I understand there's a new model they're using. Todd, can you explain what that is and then how you guys are all intertwined with it?
Sure, I can begin with a general overview. The state of Illinois, in association with the federal Every Student Succeeds Act, has implemented an evidence-based funding model, which requires us now to ensure that we report out by each individual school how funds are being used to hire particular staffing levels for particular positions, how supports are being provided with regard to instructional materials, technology, secretarial, custodial help, and so forth. So we're reporting now by school how the funds are being used in order to achieve or make progress towards our achievement goals or our academic goals. But it's not just academic goals. We're also going to be tracked with regard to attendance, graduation requirements, and so forth.
Okay. And for you two, how are you guys involved? I know, Chad, you deal with the finances in the school district.
Right. So part of the program, we have a financial software package called Skyward, and part of the requirements for ESSA is reporting out on just exactly how many dollars you're spending per student, per building. So behind the scenes, we're working on creating a number of accounting codes. Then we'll also talk to Mrs. Holly on staffing levels, where are we putting certain employees, why are we putting them there? And then we'll have to explain that to the community and the state on how we're best using the resources that we receive.
And from your perspective, Kristen, how are you involved with school funding?
Again, what Mr. Burgett said, we'll be looking at a lot at ways for school improvement efforts and how are we using evidence-based funding dollars on very specific building needs and goals.
And with regards to the school budget, COSD number one is in what's the standing? In good shape there?
We have a balanced budget. Our final budget will be approved at this next month's board meeting.
Okay, I believe just prior to this episode airing, so
Yep.
Very good. Look forward to hearing those results. Physical changes. You have many buildings in the Charleston School District. I think we've listed most of them here to this point. What recent physical changes, if any, have been done to the variety of buildings?
Well, to begin, we went to our community as a community group to explain the priorities in our district with regard to roof needing to be repaired, HVAC units need to be replaced or repaired, and so forth. So we prioritized many projects that need to be done, totaling over $2 million. Now what we've done with Chad's help, he's facilitating a facilities team that will continually reorder and reprioritize those needs. And we've seen a lot of those come to fruition this year, and Chad can discuss specifically not only with regard to the roof at Jefferson being replaced and repaired, but some other projects we've been able to do this summer as a beginning point for that money.
Through that facilities team, we were able to generate a number of projects we'd like to tackle, and we were able to tackle most of those this year. We had roof work at Carl Sandburg, Jefferson, and Mark Twain. HVAC units needed to be replaced at Carl Sandburg. We had drainage issues at Carl Sandburg and Ashmore. And without the community approving the 1% sales tax, I think a lot of these projects would have been deferred. And then I don't know where we'd be without the money right now.
And I should add to that we are extremely grateful that our community voted
blessed
to pass that sales tax for our facilities. And so I would encourage, and we've talked about how we need to continually encourage our citizens, our public, to frequent our local businesses, because that just helps students in the end.
All right, very good. In our last minute or two here, we would get into some other issues, but because of time restraints, we'll delay those to another time. For each of you, can you just tell us what you enjoy most about being a part of this community and being an educator? So we'll start with Todd.
I'll reference what Chad mentioned. For me, it's always been about the people. I've always been told this is a great place to raise a family. And so I've done that with my 2 children, raised our family here, and that has always been the case. It's been a great place to raise a family. We have excellent staff here who work hard for their kids. We have parents who are involved, excellent Board of Education, excellent administrative team, and it's just a great place to live, and it's a great place to call home.
Okay, well, Kristen next.
This community has definitely a special place in my heart. It is home, as I mentioned. It's not where I'm from, but there's nowhere else I'd rather be. It's a very supportive community, very supportive of the school district, and we just have really great people here.
Okay, Thank you. And
I
Chad?
go back to what they said about the people. I think raising a family here, you got a great opportunity in Charleston between the rec department, EIU, and the Charleston Schools. There's a lot of opportunities for children and students in this area.
We've caught up today on what's going on in the Charleston Schools District with the Charleston School Administration, Todd Vilardo, Kristen Holly, Chad Burgett. We appreciate your time here on City Spotlight today.
Thanks
Thank
for
you for
having
having
us.
us.
Thank you very much. And coming up next here on City Spotlight, we'll shift gears on this episode on Charleston and talk about the 5 Mile House and the 5 Mile House Foundation with Tom Vance and Les Dallas. But first, let's take a look at some of the upcoming activities going on in Charleston. And we're back here on City Spotlight, this episode on Charleston. We're going to change gears now from Charleston Schools, and we're going to talk about the 5 Mile House and the 5 Mile House Foundation. And to help us out in this segment, we have Les Dallas and Tom Vance. They're both with the 5 Mile House Foundation. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Look forward to learning about the 5 Mile House and the foundation, and also a really unique project you worked on about 3 weeks ago. You're both first-time guests on the program. Can you tell us about yourself first, and we'll let Les go first.
I'm a local resident of Hutton Township. I live just down the road from the barn, a quarter of a mile.
Okay.
And we have a plumbing and heating business there that goes on without me, and
Okay.
I've enjoyed working on the barn.
All right, very good. We'll talk about the barn in just a couple minutes. Thank
Yep.
you. And Tom, can you please tell us about yourself?
Well, I came to Charleston to work at Lincoln Log Cabin, where I worked for 28 years and took retirement there and working with the 5 Mile House and some other projects in the area as a historic consultant, and worked with the 5 Mile House for quite a few years now.
Excellent. Very good. Again, we're going to talk about a really unique project here in a few minutes, a barn that was deconstructed. But first, let's talk about the 5 Mile House. Give us a brief history, if you can, please.
5 Mile House was built in the 1840s, and it's at the corner of Route 130 and Westfield Road, and it was right on the route that Abraham Lincoln traveled when he rode the 8th Circuit. So there's 99% certainty that he stopped and watered his horse and spent time there.
Mm-hmm.
The 5 Mile House was actually saved in 1998 by a group of local historians, and they created a not-for-profit foundation and restored it, and it was dedicated in 2004. And since then, we've been working on doing furnishings, doing other projects around, restroom building, sidewalks, a lot of different things to make it, more of a modern historic site.
Okay. So 20 years, if my math is correct, 1998.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things, you have reenactments, what are some things that take place at the 5 Mile House?
Our main program is in the summer. Every other Sunday we have what we call a Living History Open House, where we have music, usually bluegrass or something related to that, historic music, and then a historic program. And we have craftspeople and spinners and coopers and blacksmiths and different types of things going on at the same time, open hearth cooking.
Okay.
In the spring, we have a school program where we bring all the 4th graders from Charleston out for a short visit, and they do living history activities. And then in the fall, we have a fall festival, and that's the first weekend in October.
All right, very good. Folks at home, we're taping this, and they're seeing this in the last part of September, so fall festival there in the early part of October. What is the purpose or mission of the foundation? Either one of you.
Well, basically, we're just preserving the history of the building and trying to add other aspects to it, which is the blacksmith shop that we're working on now.
Okay.
So and it's a living history.
All right, very good. Tom, you mentioned working with Lincoln Log Cabin, and let's talk about preserving history. Why is that important to you, and why should that be important to people in the area?
A lot of the early houses, like the 5 Mile House, and we actually moved the Sargent House, which dates to the 1840s, to Lincoln Log Cabin, and quite a few other historic buildings. And these buildings are lost if we don't preserve them. And they're a glimpse into how our ancestors lived in the area here back 100, 150 years ago. And it's amazing how many young people today have lost touch with their rural roots, and how many children came to Lincoln, and still do, I'm sure, came to Lincoln Log Cabin having no idea where their food comes from. And so, preserving our rural past and the history gives them a glimpse into things like that.
Okay. Before we talk about the 1880s barn that you guys worked on about 3 weeks ago, prior to this taping, is there anything else you want to share with our audience about the 5 Mile House or the 5 Mile House Foundation?
No, I think we're
covered pretty good.
Okay.
yeah.
Let's dive into this wonderful project that you guys worked on. August 8th was the first day you guys worked on this 1880s barn, which is about 3 miles east of the 5 Mile House on Westfield Road. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay. Tell folks at home about this, and we have video and pictures that people will see at home of you guys working on the barn. So tell us about the barn, please.
The old barn is just up the road a quarter of a mile from where we live.
Okay.
I have spent past years of putting hay in the loft of that old barn, of putting a roof on the part of it, and I'm very familiar with. It was called like McDonald's farm. It had peacocks, goats, ducks, and guineas, anything you could imagine was around there. Brahma bulls. It had a lot of interest in the area there of the different aspects that they had there.
And so what were you guys doing with the barn? You were taking down the barn, and what are you going to be doing with it?
Well, we have been, one of the oral traditions with the 5 Mile House is that there was originally a blacksmith shop there. And a gentleman named Stone was a blacksmith, and he helped prepare wagon trains going west for the gold rush in the late 1840s, early 1850s. So we had kind of had it in our long-range plan since day one that we wanted to eventually build a blacksmith shop, and we were just waiting for the right building to come along, and actually searching for a building.
Right.
And looked at several others, and then Les was familiar with the barn and kind of gave us a heads up on that, and we went and looked at it, and it had all hewn timbers in it, and it was just perfect for what we wanted to do.
So where's it going to go? It was taken down?
It'll go in the northeast corner of the site.
Okay.
As you're facing the 5 Mile House, it'll be off to the right.
Right. Okay.
And the size of the barn originally was 40 by 50, and we're going to downsize it to 30 by 40.
Okay. Very good.
So
you brought an image that we'll put on the screen of what it will eventually look like. Let's talk a little bit about you guys worked on it for about 4 days. Am I correct on that? And taking it down. Let's talk about that process. It's not every day a big barn is taken down and for preserving history. So talk about what that was like. Any equipment, number of workers you guys had out there?
We had several people working on it, and we had several pieces of equipment, some of it donated, some of it for hire, but an 85-ton crane that you could see for 10 miles away when the boom was up on it, and to take the rafters off. So we had the 4 days of deconstructing and loading it on a trailer to be shipped up to Hillsdale, near Hillsdale.
Knoxville.
Okay.
Knoxville.
It's over western Illinois area?
Yeah.
All right.
West of Peoria, which we took up on the Monday after, or the Tuesday after we
Very good.
were done with the deconstruction.
Okay.
The company named Trillium Dell Timber Works, it's actually doing the framework for us, and they have done over 200 barns in their
Wow.
20 years.
So they're experts at that.
They are the best. They're not cheap, but they are the best.
Okay.
And I couldn't imagine doing it without their expertise because they just know all the ins and outs of it. So they have it in their shop. They're going to reconfigure it, make repairs, splices, and actually replace a lot of the timbers over the winter. And then we're looking at March, April timeframe to put it back up.
So it's gonna come back down over, and will it be, you'll be put it back together at the 5 Mile House site? Okay. So next spring, we'll look forward to that. We'll have to catch up with you. We'll have to come out there and tape on location with you guys. What will be the purpose of that blacksmith shop? How will it enhance the 5 Mile House? What's going to be the purpose of it?
Well, it's going to be kind of a visitor center. It'll be a working blacksmith in it with everything that related to him. So basically, it's an information center.
All right, very good.
And a place for programs, particularly when it's raining.
Fantastic.
So-
Look forward to catching up with you guys in the spring. Hope it goes all well and transported back to East Central Illinois safely. Les Dallas, Tom Vance of the 5 Mile House Foundation, we appreciate your time here on City Spotlight.
Thank you.
And that'll do it for this City Spotlight episode on Charleston. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com.